Welcome to Watcher DM. I'm Gabriel, and today I'm doing a flip through and review of Winter's Daughter by Gavin Norman. It's an adventure for the Dolmenwood campaign setting and game. And yeah, just to go over the basics here, the construction of this book is it is a hardcover. It's like 36 pages, including the covers. I think it's 32 interior pages, but it's got some nice end papers with the maps on it, etc. So great little book, A5 size, and yeah, let's dig right in. I love the art. The Winter's Daughter. This is the 2024 August 6th version. Was written by Gavin Norman with development and editing by Noah Green, Nicholas Montegriffo, Frederick Munch, Gavin Norman, and Rabbit Stoddard. Layout by Sasha Schnitzer. Cover art by Mitch Scott, who also did some of the interior illustration, along with Alexis DeCamps. And cartography by Carl Sternberg. Some playtesters credited here. The organization of the book is pretty straightforward, as most adventures. You have an introduction where it tells you a brief bit about what's going on. It tells you what the required books are. So this does reference the Dolmenwood Players Book, Campaign Book, and Monsters Book, and those are marked DPB, DCB, and DMB, respectively. The adventure is designed for characters level 1 to 3. I ran this for my level 1 party, and it comes with a substantial amount of gold, although the PCs are not likely to find all of this gold. But the gold reward did result in PC level ups in my game, and I would expect that to happen in most games. The location section here is really nice, given that this came with the Dolmenwood campaign Kickstarter rewards. It was nice to have guidance on where to place this, such that it was not locked in, but it was flexible, and I was able to run this for my party who were in Langshorn. So I just put it right next to Langshorn. They were able to go right into it, and there is a bit, basically a spread here talking about the setup. This is kind of the background information that you would need to understand how this is all working within the context of the world. It talks about the Cold Prince, his daughter, Winter's daughter, the titular character, how the Cold Prince was defeated by Sir Chide. Sir Chide, of course, had fallen in love with his daughter, and so after he had died, there's a ring that was shared between the lovers, and ultimately that kind of bound Fairy and the mundane world together, and via this tomb through this ring. And that caused enough stuff that the person who was responsible for kind of minding the tomb ultimately asked it to be sealed, and then centuries passed. So this is your kind of history in brief. Then you get your hooks. Dreams of the Lady. I tried to introduce this hook, but unfortunately the player who got it could not attend the session that we ran Winter's Daughter in. So we didn't get to use that. It's fine. The inheritance hook was actually super convenient, since a PC I had lost their first character in the first session, and so their brother came to kind of retrieve the estate of their fallen brother, and in that I was able to give them the charter and of Sir Brigford, or Brigford the Wise, the brother of Sir Chide, and so yeah, basically information about the thing, and they were like, yeah, let's go do it. And then also I did try and use the Tomb Robber's hook, although interestingly, because the thief in my party is a Grimalkin, or no, he's a Gru. Yeah, he's a bat person. He is an egg thief. He doesn't seem to care very much about money. But he was willing to. He was convinced that there were ways to turn money into eggs, and so yeah, he went for it. But he wasn't super impassioned to get this done. The player's background sets up some of the important information the PCs might know or can get access to via deeper investigation. But yeah, it's nice to have this common folklore here all gathered in one place. And then you get right into the adventure. Outside the mound, you've got effectively kind of 4 locations. and the random events table. All of the random events tables in this adventure only contain maybe one or two potential combat encounters, which is quite nice. You end up getting, I think, a much more interesting vibe with this game because of the kind of scene setting that they do via random encounter tables, etc. Of course, random encounters are still 1 in 6 chance every 2 turns. It's like pretty normal. Also, the writing here, I'm going to say, is really terse. Probably to the point of like you don't really need to read it beforehand for the most part. You can just kind of glance, get your bearings, and then say what you're going to say about it. The downside to this is you're not going to get any prose. So if you're not very poetic, or if you find you have a hard time making, a list of things sound interesting by expounding upon it, this might be a little challenging. You might want to give it a little bit of extra prep just to really get the scene in your head and build it out. The Whiting Stones here, which can be seen from the approach, have these great 13 iron owls kind of rusting with pentagram eyes, which was really cool. The twitching stag skeleton freaked everyone out. So those are all very cool. The tomb entrance requires a combined strength of 40. This is an interesting nuance with this style of game where there isn't a roll involved. It's just meet this number. And so, one of my PCs was like, well, I'm not strong enough. I'm not very strong, so I'm not going to try. And I was like, well, if there's only 3 of you, there's no way. Like you won't open it if you don't also try. And it turned out that having him add on was the thing that took us over the 40-point limit. And so they were able to open the tomb via combined strength. Although it was also hilarious, I think, that the first thing that they did, as soon as he was like, "Oh, I'm not going to try because I'm not strong," he was like, "But I've got a bunch of rope. Maybe we can make a pulley system." And I was like, "Yeah, that's OSR, baby." The wormhole they never discovered, so I think this is one of those things with PCs who don't walk the perimeter. I have become the kind of PC who walks the perimeter, so I'm used to finding this kind of stuff. But the PCs did not find this, and that plays out later. Now, normally, so they get into the burial mound. Normally, I would go through this a page at a time, but I'm going to jump around a little bit because I want to take you down the journey that my PCs went, and I think it'll be a little bit instructive because this adventure has great J-Quazing in it. And I'll show you what I mean. So they get into the burial mound with the Hall of Guardians. This is an amazing trap. The religious objects here attack any non-lawful character who enters, and it says specifically who step foot in this room. So we used that. The PCs did ultimately figure out that they could basically just go back up the stairs and not step foot in the room, and so they shot the religious objects from the stairs by kind of leaning out over the room. It was a very clever solution to the problem, and yeah, they got some treasure for their trouble, but they took some licks. They got hit pretty hard in this encounter, which was fun. And then at the opposite of that of the entrance there's a door. And it says, "The most dear," in an inscription. The PCs went straight to that. So they just crossed the room and went to 8, the family crypt, where 2 skeletons are kind of floating, dancing, covered in this ooze. That's telegraphing that the ooze has some magical property. It makes you float, makes things weird. But the skeletons are actually described as being quite nice. Distant speech, old-fashioned, woldish. They recall little of their former lives, but react fondly at the mention of Sir Chide and any of their children, so the PCs mentioning that were cool. They welcome strangers to join the dance, and they attack vehemently if any of the coffers are disturbed. All my PCs danced. They went ahead and danced, so it was great. They did kind of dance around and try and read some of the coffers, so they did track that Brigford the Wise was here. Lord Brigforwith and Lady Amaranda were the ones dancing, and then they got this other information, but they did not actually loot any of the coffers, which was quite cool. Nor did they touch the slime vapor, although they almost did. And they didn't check out the fissure, although they kind of looked at it, but they didn't end up going in. And then they went on to the north, which takes them directly to 12, the Hall of Hounds. So, in true PC fashion, they speed ran to the end of the dungeon, right? Right? But no, they got to this door. They saw these two huge hounds. As they approached, I happened to roll the random encounter that was hounds baying. The sound of hounds baying echoes through the crypt. So I just had it echo from the hounds. And they were like, oh, this is definitely a trap. And Alicia, who was playing a Mossling, was like, well, what are the hounds' names? And I was like, yeah, you don't know. And so they were like, well, let's go look around and maybe we can figure out hounds' names. And so this one telegraphed trap caused them to go and kind of peel back through the dungeon. And so they went then into the armed statues room where another cool thing happened. There's a mold patched wall here. And, you could tell that some of the mural was covered by this mold. Well, Alicia, playing a Mossling, was like, well, it might be dangerous to touch the mold. Why don't you guys back up and I'll scrape the mold off because I'm good with these things. And sure enough, she rolled really well on her save versus Doom and took no damage, revealing the name of the first hound, Cheddar. So that was pretty cool. Unfortunately, they did, in their first pass through here, miss that one of the swords here is magical. The long sword is the sword of Sir Chide. And then after they went through 11, so they kind of kept going, and they ended up backtracking to 7, where one of my party members, basically looked at the full length mirror and made their save, so they didn't become frozen still, but they could tell that something happened, and so they covered that, and that kind of fixed this. But it was a fun little engaging moment that they interacted with, and then one of them went and looked down the stairs, and they kind of tracked the plinth here with the scratches on the floor, so they could tell that one of the statues had been extracted. And when they came over here to 6, they found the other statue. Now, one of the things that was interesting about this is on their way to the dungeon, I had rolled a random encounter that was like a bunch of bandits. But I had rolled surprise, and the bandits would have been surprised. And so I was like, okay, well, the PCs then know about the bandits. They went around them. But I had the bandits just be like, oh, yeah, man, we're going to make so much money after this because there is an owl cave or the witch owl cave or whatever in 0609, the hex that I had put the adventure in. And it just so happened that there's a really valuable statue stashed in that cave. And I was like, that was me telegraphing that there was a statue there. But then the adventure actually provides a stolen statue. And it just happened. It was just coincidence that happened. So I thought it was a really, really cool moment. The PCs picked up on it. They felt like it was all integrated, like this was all some master plan. And I was like, man, that's so cool when a game does that for you. They get to 6. They were totally freaked out by the by the woman with the blindfold. So they didn't take it off initially. Instead, continuing to the north, which took them to room 9, where they saw the tapestry and the stone altar, and they checked everything out and ultimately found the door behind the tapestry. When they opened the door, some worm tongues came flying out at them and attacked them, ultimately killing the thief. So my buddy Andrew started rolling up his new character, and we went on to continue the exploration. After the PCs destroyed the worm tongues, they did ultimately check the moldy writing desk and find that inside the book cover there's a brass sheet with the other dog's name. With this information in hand, they went back to room 12, released the hounds, who then opened the door as soon as they said the names, and they went into the Knight's Tomb, where Sir Chide is, kind of in reverie in front of this hanging portrait. The character who was the knight, so the Mossling had like a background of afraid they're being haunted by vengeful ghosts. The knight, on the other hand, was basically here to kind of reclaim this ring and a sword that he claimed that, the charter said were his. So he was like, okay, this ghost wants me to take his ring somewhere. Happy to do so. Yeah, let me sort it out. So he puts the ring on, which then means he's haunted by Sir Chide, which was cool. So that kind of freaked them out. He was like, okay, we got to get this sorted. So they end up going to the warded pool, which is room 14. It's pretty much underneath. It's kind of like underneath these two. That's where the stairs goes. And the knight walked into that room. And when you do, you kind of vanish and you go straight into fairy. And so the Mossling stayed here. And at this point, I had one PC who was interacting with the game, one who was waiting, and then one who was making a new character. So he shows up here. He goes up into the tower. There's a whole bit here about the fairy prison. We didn't really get any random encounters here. There was some cool scene setting, but otherwise, they met the troll. He let them in. They went into the fairy kitchen. Just went straight through to the stairs. They go upstairs to the wedding feast. The guards escort uninvited guests to the princess in area 19. He shows up. They have the ring, so straight away, Sir Chide appears, and the scene goes down where Sir Chide and the princess, embrace, and it was really quite lovely. And she thanks the PC by inviting him to their wedding feast. The whole thing goes off without a hitch. It was really, really awesome. And among the rewards was resurrection of a recently deceased companion. So he used that to resurrect the other PC who had just finished making his character. So now he's got a backup. But his thief is back on the table. And the PC's got a bunch of other treasure and took off. And now the ring is in fairy. And so you get this nice little epilogue of all the different things that can happen and might go down. And you get your magic item descriptions here. So they got the Amulet of Ruvenaeth, which gives them the possibility of using a wish spell, which is pretty powerful. Of course, they don't have the Ring of Soul Binding, and I don't think they ever found the Pouch of Limitless Fungi. And that is Winter's Daughter. Really, really fun adventure. Really, really fun to run. Incredible to prep. Very amazingly easy to prep. And I was really thoroughly impressed with the quality of this product. I would recommend it to anyone who wants to run this for Dolmenwood, but also anybody who's interested in just running it for any old school system. I think it would work great for Shadowdark or Old School Essentials or even classic D&D. If you like these videos, I hope you'll hit the like button. If you want to see more of them, you should subscribe. And if you want to be notified when they come out, you should hit the bell icon. If you'd like to get these videos a week early, you can go join my Patreon at patreon.com/WatcherDM. I also drop daily sketches that I do and writing that I do. And yeah, that's what you get. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you in the next one.